Almost Punk Podcast, episode 26. Welcome back.
Yay, we're here.
We're here. Welcome back to us. Welcome back to you if anyone is still here.
I think it's been 7 months.
Wow. We took a break.
We did.
That's almost long enough to have a baby. Almost, which we did not. None of us had a baby. That's how long that took to come back. So there you go.
It just got crazy and, COVID and health issues. And then all of a sudden time flew by. It wasn't even a planned thing. I think nearly every week or two, we talk, let's do the next episode. And it just never happened for 7 months.
Yeah. And I can't say that I was busy doing anything important or exciting or even busy, but
Same.
Also I wasn't not busy. Like it's crazy. And the burnout from living through pandemic year 2 is real.
Burnout.
And I also finally understand why people that do more creative type of work, why they sometimes have to stop for personal reasons because they don't feel inspired to do it. I've never understood that. And now this year I was like, I just don't really feel like I have anything to give to any sort of creativity or any output or anything extra, period. So
I feel like I was busy eating.
Yeah. Well, it takes up a lot of time. So
I feel good about this gaining of 20 pounds, and that's my priority at the moment. And then I'll get out of that. I feel like now I'm starting to get, I put on the 20 pounds. Now I can work on starting things over again.
Mm-hmm.
So a refresh, if you will.
A refresh. It's a new year, new you. No.
That's right. It is a new year. It is 2022.
It is still same me, but new year.
I think we're on year 3 of pandemic.
Yeah,
right?
year 3 of. I mean, after March or so, that's when it kind of started for us. And we saw some shows last year. Shows came back. A couple. I did. You and I went to Punk Rock Bowling.
Yes.
That seems like a million years ago, but
Yes,
that was really fun. And that was.
Yeah, that was the last
needed.
For me.
That was the last.
You went to a couple more.
For you. I've been to a couple more. Might have gotten COVID from one. I don't know.
Probably.
Well,
we should mention we live in the Bay Area, so the rules are stricter here than some places. Yeah. So that's another part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very enforced at places I've been to in terms of you have to have a negative test or you have to be vaccinated and you have to be masked and doing pretty good job at that at most places I've been to.
And that's good because I need to stay healthy.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I just get really bored and depressed. So that's the downside.
Yeah. It's real. It is real.
But it doesn't stop the punk news.
No. And I think what's happening now is the newer wave of shows are being canceled because of current situation. So we're just in a loop. It's starting to feel like Groundhog Day.
I was looking up stuff like, okay, well, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Cancel, postpone, cancel, postpone. I'm like, well, that's not news. That's not exactly news that I need to go in depth on. That's just something to mention. Like a lot of shows are being canceled. A lot of shows are being postponed. If anything is happening, we'll mention that. I think we are going to mention, Pennywise is going to play in person, 1 album at a time, 5 shows, that kind of thing.
Which Bad Religion did a similar thing, but on stream.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, Pennywise, they're playing live. Yeah, that's a big one, especially like right now. It's another wave of stuff. So whoop. Well, I guess I should just mention it. Then I just brought it up. Pennywise is playing.
Yeah,
and they're playing live. 5 album back to back. Their first 5 albums, and they're playing it in California. Whoops.
It's in SoCal.
I wanted to get the dates up here, but I don't know why I didn't have it ready to go. But I'm not exactly the fastest fingered guy. Let's see. What do you think about playing full albums? Is that a cool thing or not?
I think it is a cool thing, especially when the album is older. But I also like playing the full. Okay, I guess in 2 instances. One, your CD release party. Totally cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Should do that. Number 2, if you're doing like an anniversary, I think we've seen Offspring do it of Smash or something. Yeah, and that's cool. So it either has to be brand new or totally old. but
Okay.
I'm into it because especially bands that have been around for a while, if it's 10th, 20th, 30th, 40th, whatever anniversary of the album, like so many new fans have been born in that time frame. It's not like, how would you expect them to have seen those songs? But now you have so much material that you can't be playing these old songs, but the fans that like your earlier stuff will always want to go listen to that. I mean, once a band has 5+ albums, you're not going to hear anything from maybe one song from first album or second album. That's it, but they can't play that as they're touring. So I'm into it. I think it's a great sort of compromise. You give the fans what they want, and then you tour on your more current music, because you do get bored of playing the same the hits over and over again. So yeah, I think it's, and plus then you're playing more of like the deeper cuts. I'm sure there's some hits, but then there's deeper cuts, so it's not boring for the band or the fans either. What about you? What are your thoughts?
I think you nailed it perfectly, so I don't really have anything to add. They're playing in March 4th through the 13th in Garden Grove, California. So that's Southern California. And yeah, it's the first 5 albums. So Self-Titled, Unknown Road, About Time, Full Circle, and Straight Ahead, which I do like that. But it's when the bands do that, they don't necessarily play the album that you like the most. So that's the data thing is like, oh, well, I want to hear, and I can't even remember the name of the album. The one that came out on MySpace, I like that album. I can't remember the name of it. Like the in quote free one from MySpace.
Yeah.
I really like that album. But they're not playing that one. So then I think to myself, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they're already playing 5 of them? Why don't just play all 15 of them?
Yeah.
That you're playing 15 shows to the same people.
That's a lot.
That might be too much.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they can revisit in a couple of years, because they did 1 through 5, then they can do 6 through whatever.
There we go.
My alternate idea, 8 or whatever. Yeah. I'm always here, if bands need help figuring out how to schedule.
I thought I was, just to give a counter something to what you've already said, because I already agree with it, but Bad Religion picked eras.
Yeah, that was
live
cool.
Stream, and they're like, we're going to do this era, this era, this era.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, now they've hit everything. Yeah. And this is only the first 5 albums. So that really is just that early era, like basically the 90s is what it was. So if they were going to do 5, I probably would have went with a couple of early ones, a couple of middle ones, and then a couple of later ones. But the way they're doing it is fine. I don't really have a big problem.
Yeah, and I guess especially it would make sense for bands whose sound changed a lot, like, because playing sometimes like AFI, some of their early stuff, playing it with the current stuff, it doesn't even sound like the same band. So for certain bands, it makes even more sense to do eras than others.
Yeah, that's true.
Depending on how much your sound has changed.
Pennywise, they sound the exact same.
Yeah, so Pennywise, it's not a band that like drastically changed and got super experimental or anything like that. Yeah.
A fun fact: the opening bands, various nights, TSOL, H2O, Adolescence, Good Riddance, Strung Out, and Voodoo Glow Skulls. So that's a good lineup no matter what night you go, I guess, because all those bands are cool. So
that'll be fun.
And that was the segue into our first news of punk for 2022. Next up, I picked one. Okay, it's not really punk rock, but it's about Nirvana, who are one of the bands that I liked before I got into punk. So they're one of my favorite bands, and so I'm always interested in Nirvana stuff. And then some people make the argument that they're a punk band from like the Bleach era, and I'm like, fine, whatever. Some people will say that Nevermind is a punk album. Okay, but regardless, I'm interested.
Yeah.
They got the Naked Baby.
It's almost punk.
It's almost punk. There we go. Nirvana, almost punk. It's perfect. Naked Baby, Lawsuit.
It's been going on for a while.
It's been going on for a while. And so real quick, the Naked Baby on the cover of Nevermind, he's now, so that was 91, this is 2022. So what, that's 31 years if I'm doing the math. So 31 years later, he's now a grown ass adult and is suing the band for sex trafficking and child pornography ridiculous. The judge already threw out the sex trafficking one, so it's like the child porn one is still on the table. I'm so annoyed that you can sue anyone for anything in the United States.
Yeah.
It's totally ridiculous. What a money grab. And the other thing, if you feel like you're being exploited, no one would have even known your name.
Yeah, because
no one would have known that's your penis.
I read some quote or interview or whatever, and he's like, I've been made fun of, and I'm like, I never knew what your name was until these lawsuits, and I still don't, to be honest.
He made a big thing of it. Also, I used to subscribe to Rolling Stone back in the day, and it was several years ago. He was on the cover of Rolling Stone reenacting that photo, and he was like in it, maybe he was like 20 or something like that, but he didn't show his wiener for that one, and he was wearing shorts. But I mean, if you were that concerned about being exploited as a baby, why would you have agreed to then reenact it for your Rolling Stone cover and you like reminisce about the good old days when you were a baby? It's so ridiculous.
I think it's
big
one
money
of those
grab.
like regrets where you're like, oh, that my parents only made like $100 off of it.
Yeah.
It should have been more, because no one knew it was going to be a big album that's going to be legendary and go on in history. So of course you want a piece of that, but they
Sue
didn't
your
know
parents.
But they didn't know that when they were negotiating, and you never know that. And yeah, it sounds like it's a parents thing. It's kind of, so if you have a problem, then you should talk to them about, negotiating your photos better. I don't know, but
yeah, didn't Macaulay Culkin sue his parents to get out of being a child under their hand?
Something
Mary-Kate
like
and
that.
Ashley Olsen, they did the same thing. You don't
All
sue.
the child stars have
I mean, it's the parents that are the problem.
Parents who take advantage of their money. Yeah.
Do you have any counter argument that he's in the right?
I mean, okay, no, I wouldn't say he's in the right, but I understand, like, if it sucks that you are on a cover of an album without your consent, because you were not old enough to give consent, and your parents made that decision, and maybe that's not a photo you like of yourself.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. Like, imagine if my parents sold a photo of me and it's on a country album. And maybe this country singer is now known racist, like for example, right? I'd be mad, I'd be upset about it, of course, something like that.
What's the solution that you propose? Or
there's, I mean, clearly to not use children, to use children in entertainment as little as possible, because they're not consenting adults. They don't have, and their parents don't always know or do what's best for them.
Correct.
Or usually don't, to be honest. Not the parents who have kids that are in the show industry. So I think then people that are, working with child actors and child stars and child talent need to be mindful of that. I think that is the solution, is be mindful that what would you not want yourself, what situation would you not want to come back to you in 18, 10, 20, 30 years? But I mean, you don't know because you're not the same person, but they need to be more mindful about that. But as a minor, it is up to the parents to make those decisions, because we're always going to have child actors and children that are modeling things and diapers and so on. So it is up to the parents to do the right thing. But I think the industry should be also mindful that a lot of parents in that space, especially, are money grabbing parents.
What do you think about a non-monetary settlement where they just stop printing that album cover and they just come up with a new one for stuff in the future? And all the places that it's digitally posted that they have control of to post a new album cover instead, but no monetary reward.
It would be difficult to enforce because there would be so many bootlegs and stuff, and that is like a legendary image.
Yeah.
So I think it would be pretty hard. I mean, he probably wants a percentage of. Maybe he should get a percentage of sales going forward.
No,
I don't know.
I'm trying to get this case thrown out because I think it's ridiculous.
You can't negotiate after the fact, though. That's the problem.
I was just thinking, to be a nice person, it is a naked baby, just like you said. It wasn't their consent.
Yeah.
Okay. And I agree with what you're saying. If you didn't like the photo, or it was representing something that you didn't even like, could you come to some sort of agreement now? And I thought the only thing I can think of is just making a new album cover. Do not give that kid a penny. I'm not even nothing, but be willing to be like, okay, we'll come up with a new album cover, and that's our nice guy solution. And you're right, you'll never get rid of the old one completely. It's an iconic thing. But I know bands have changed their album covers and changed the album names after the fact. I remember after September 11th, Jimmy World, their album was called Bleed America. And then it was all of a sudden, it was just called
Bleed America.
It was just called Jimmy World after that. I have the old one.
Yeah, me too.
Because I had a promo. So that's how I knew about that. And then I didn't like Bush have a song called.
No, there was a whole list of songs that were banned and band names that were banned from radio in that era because of that, anything dealing with flights and terrorism and stuff.
But on albums, I'm pretty sure at least some of those things were renamed.
Yeah.
The song remains the same, but they're just like, okay, we don't want this song to be called Everyone Dies anymore. We're just going to have the song called Everyone.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I could.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
I think it's also like interesting because it's kind of, you know, we talk a little bit about cancel culture last year and such, and that's not exclusive to punk or music scene, but it's always like, how far back do you go? Because, and this is another one of these of like, how far back can you go and sue somebody, and how do you make something right if somebody feels wrong by something 30 years ago? And there's not a good answer, because this person, maybe he does feel really violated and upset about it. I don't know. I've never been on an album cover naked as a baby. I can't, you know, to be honest, I don't know that. Maybe that was horrible for him.
Yeah. 30 years though.
No, but okay. No, I get what you're saying, but it could be terrible. I'm just, but like, what can you do about it now? And that's not even a hot album that people are talking about besides the lawsuit these days. Like so I think he's just drawing more attention to it, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Exactly. Well, quickly, other news segue.
Yeah.
Video of Joey Ramone's pre-Ramones band Sniper resurfaces. I didn't want to go in depth on that or anything. I just thought it was interesting. I did watch it, and it's really just Joey Ramone as the singer of a band. I would say it sounds exactly like New York Dolls. It's the New York glam style. So that was just interesting to see Joey Ramone singing.
Yeah.
In his weird, he still has that weird fake accent. And
why did it just emerge now?
That's a good question as well. The mix is terrible. The video quality is terrible. So it's not like it's an enjoyable, it's 15 minutes long. It's not anything that I would recommend everyone needs to go watch this old Joey Ramone footage. But if you're a Ramones fan like me, you just want to see, what was this guy like before the Ramones? And you see he was in a glam band that sounds just like the New York Dolls. And it was interesting, but nothing good.
Yeah.
Even the music, I'm not a big fan of it. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was just like, So whatever. If you're a big Ramones fan, sure, check it out. If not, skip it. That's what my recommendation is. And then next up, ex-War on Women guitarist Nancy Hornberg alleges abuse and criminal behavior by former band members. This one was crazy.
That was a crazy story.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And it's one of those things where you hold a band in such high regard, and then it's just like someone burst the bubble on you, and you're just so disappointed, and you're like,
the name of the band is War on Women.
Yeah.
And then she's basically saying she felt like the war was on her.
Yeah. And there's a lot in the article, but she got kicked out of the band for not being good enough, in quotes. The other guitar player in the band was putting her tape recorder on top of her amp and then critiquing her shows after the shows. Like, why? I don't know.
Sounds like some sort of like a coach, like a high school
coaching.
coach.
Just could you imagine your band members after every show recording you and then critiquing you and you specifically,
just you,
not the whole band. We don't care about like the singer singing, hitting the notes or whatever. No, just you. That's effed up. The other one, like withholding money, and the money thing. Yeah, I'm sure they withheld money, but they don't make money in that band. So the amount of money they withheld would, I mean, I think in the end she got $250 with like no receipts of how much money she's actually owed or whatever. But I can't imagine it actually being more than $250. They're not a big $1 million making band, especially at the time she was in the band. But nevertheless, I agree with what she said. Like, there's no receipts. They never did anything. They never, like, she asked for stuff. They never show her anything. She has no creative input on the band. She can't even talk to her bandmates about anything. She gets yelled at. They've put her in unsafe spaces, make her sleep in weird places. And I mean, none of this is like criminal. It's just, like I said, because they're war on women. They're big feminism, equality, like being good people. And then what do when push comes to shove? They just kick out their band member because they don't think they're good enough to play the music anymore because now their songs are complicated. Like, I thought that's kind of effed up.
I'm always even more disappointed when it's the space and the organization and the people or the company or whatever that has all these, like, here's our values. We're not like these other people or organizations, and this is what we are like. And then they're just like that. It's even worse to me than if you're just another whatever shitty company or another band that is not equal or another band that has a singer that makes all the decisions or a star player who makes all the decisions or whatever. It pisses me off more when you go into something thinking it's going to be completely different. I've volunteered for an organization before that I had like an experience like that, and it just left a really bad taste in my mouth of, like, you go into thinking like, oh, this is like grassroots organization and everyone's equal, and then you're just like quickly realize like, no, that's not the case. And I didn't continue volunteering, but it kind of that just reminded me when I was reading the story, because you go into it thinking something completely different and being really excited and wanting to work with those people because of that vision and because of those things, because you can go volunteer or you can go work or you can go be in a band with other people if those are your interests. So it's like you go into it thinking one thing. It's just so disappointing. Like, not just, I mean, it must have been so crushing for her, but as a fan too, it's so disappointing when you think something is one way and then it turns completely different. It's kind of like, you have one of your favorite bands and you find out one of them is like a horrible person, or, I mean, it's exactly what that's like.
I was talking to some family members and they're like, oh, so what's the big deal? Like, really? Okay. They don't think she's good enough. They kick her out of the band. They replace her. It happens all the time in bands all the time. Like, it's really not even an issue. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that were true if it were some big band that just wants to conquer the world. Yeah, it's something where
I can see being fired from Metallica if you're not good enough. Like, I just totally.
But when you're
expecting going into a Metallica, that you know that you're not going to be an equal person ever if you're not one of the founding members, right? Like, imagine you're replacing someone in that band. You already know going into it, you're not going to be an equal. You're not going to get paid. You're not going to get the merch money. You have to negotiate you're a hired gun and you're not part of the creative process, but you know that going into it. Whereas in this situation, you're not going into a Metallica. No. You are going into a band where you do want to have your vision and your creativity and your input, and you want to be treated like an equal. Yeah,
absolutely.
That. I mean, you should be anyways, but like, realistically, that's not the case with all the established bands when you're a new member. I understand.
I haven't heard a response from the remaining members of War on Women about what their thoughts on this are yet. So I only know the one side of the story. Yeah. But regardless, there are some things that you can't dispute. And it sucks for the reasons that you mentioned, when your whole, your your declaration of independence or your purpose for existing is one thing, and then your actions are the exact opposite.
Yeah,
because it's not convenient anymore.
Yeah, it's like you're joining I don't know, a vegan hardcore band, and then you go on tour and everybody's eating steaks, and you're like sitting there eating your energy bars in the corner alone. Like, that's not what you're expecting.
And then they're still saying like, yeah, vegan's the way to be.
Yeah, and then go on stage and they're like, yeah, eating animals is cruel, but you know that they're all eating at a steakhouse after the show. It's like, what is this? It's even worse.
Yeah.
It's a million times
and
worse.
It sucks as a fan. I mean, it sucks for the person the most, no doubt. But for me, it sucks as a fan. It reminds me of like the anti-flag going on the mainstream label thing. And, you know, I can get over it. I got over it.
It's not like,
it's not the end of the world. This is actually worse, though, to me, because this is like, man, this is like right at the core of an individual, and you're targeting an individual within your own band. It's very personal. There's no way to say this was just like a business decision, because, man, it's just terrible. I mean,
there's better ways, if somebody, there's conflict, of course, in many bands, but there's also a way of handling it and telling somebody they need to improve if that is the case, without being a jerk about it. There's other ways of like, hey, could you step this, or could you do this, or hey, you give people whatever. I mean, people do it at work in professional settings all the time, and there's ways of doing it where you attack a person and make them want to leave, and then there's ways of like, hey, could you practice more, or could you
and she
not
brings
get
it up.
so drunk, or you know, whatever the issue is that's causing that. And
it sounded like she even asked for more time. So what happened was, in one of the situations, I think it was, the guitar player hands her, the other guitar player hands her a disc of stuff to learn, and then comes back. I don't know what the time frame is, and it's like, this is not good enough, you're out of the band. And she says like, well, can I just get some more time or something to get my shit together?
Like,
no, you're out. Like, and then she's like, well, can I do XYZ? No, you're out. It was just like, the way it was done was terrible. So that was just bad, stupid. So now I'm like, can I get over this? I don't know. They need to respond. Hopefully by our next podcast, we'll have a response or something. I don't know. It's just hard to like people when you know they're full of shit, and you don't. Easy for me to say I'm not in the band or whatever. I don't know all the ins and outs. Maybe there was something else going on, just to be fair, but it just sounds bad. Bubble has been burst. Another disappointment.
Life is just full of them lately.
That's right. Let's see. What else do we got here? I threw in something about, there was an article in Slice, why is the history of punk music so white? And I didn't want to go into it super long, but to summarize it, it's white because the white people there are just not accommodating to anybody else. They're mean, they're exclusive, and they don't care about anything else. And
a segue from the last.
So, I mean, I think, yes, I think that's, and it's the same. Why is it all dudes? And the lady that wrote the article is like, well, here's a problem. I go to a punk show. I'm a woman. I go stage dive. You think everything would be fine, except I get molested every time I do it, and I can't enjoy the show. Why the heck would I even want to go in the first place if I'm just going to go get attacked? And so it's this, I mean, So, I mean, that's a problem. If you're a dude in these situations, you can't be doing that, or else the chicks are not going to go to the shows. And why would they? So same. Why is music so white? Because people are treating everyone like assholes and like outsiders, and they don't belong here and all this stuff. It's just like, you don't have to be such a dick.
Like, and then, I mean, then the whole within punk community, right? The whole poser and who belongs in. I mean, that's probably part of the issue, because you're not creating an environment that's creating a space for people that are curious and new to ask questions and feel comfortable and feel welcome. So then you're not making it more acceptable for people who don't know, like, to go to their first show if they don't know what to wear or how to mosh or where to stand or what shoes are safe, or, you know, all those things. It does create kind of that unwelcoming space.
And that's why I brought it up, in just a lot similar to the last one. It's like creating an unsafe space. It's like purposely exclusive, and like, I never even paid attention a long time ago, but now that I am thinking about something, I'm like, I see it so often.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like a minor issue. I mean, it is 90+% white on a lot of the shows I go to.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, what am I a part of? Like the things that you mentioned, it's supposed to be what punk is supposed to be versus what it actually is. I mean, there's such a freaking difference. It's mind-blowing when you actually pay attention. It's easy when I wasn't paying attention. Now I see it. I'm like, well, I don't know if I like this. I don't want to be around these people. They're assholes. So yeah, I just mentioned it.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely hung out with people, especially when I was younger, that would just be like if you're say I was more into punk, they'd be more into hardcore, and it's like I didn't necessarily feel welcome by certain groups or certain people, even in the small scene that we were in. So, and it's even harder if I was a person of color, if I had even less friends that I knew connecting me to the scene and so on. So yeah, it totally, you're not, I mean, everything about punk is you're not even allowed to ask questions or admit that you don't know a band or something. It's like,
And I imagine if you go to a show, you probably know I can stand in this spot and I'm fine. If I go stand in this other spot, this is going to be a problem. And you know that because of the experience that you've had in life, right?
Yeah.
And that's a real thing, is it?
Totally.
And that's ridiculous. I mean, like, it's sad. It sucks. That
but I mean,
and how long did you have to, like, just like you said, it's your first show you're going to, you don't know these. You don't
know what to expect. Yeah, now I know. I optimize, like, do I want to be in the crowd? Do I not want to be in the crowd? Do I want to hear? Do I want to see? Do I want to be bumped around? Like, you kind of know, and you have to, and you only know by experience. You can't, it's not like it's obvious. It's kind of like anything you're doing that's new. You don't know what the social norms are, and it can be intimidating, especially if you don't have somebody to ask.
So that sucks. So I imagine, you're different. You're not white. You go into a show, you see a bunch of white people. It's probably a little strange to begin with because you probably feel like, well, this is weird, but this is punk rock. I should just be able to go, do my bunny hop dance and run around in circles and everything's fine. And then you find out, well, these white people over here are bad. These ones over here are okay. And it's like, and this is supposed to be the scene we're in where everything's cool and we're all cool to each other. So I don't like that.
Yeah.
Well, the other topic I briefly wanted to talk about is pop punk thriving? Totally, total segue into the next one. And
everyone says it is. Since we dropped the ball on recording this podcast, it's been thriving according to the internet.
That's what I wanted. I wanted to know, have you noticed anything? Because you not have TikTok. It mentions like TikTok is, pop punk is big on TikTok. Pop punk.
I don't spend a lot of time on there, but I do know that pop punk is back because Travis Barker, Kardashian, like it is so weird. See, here I am not being welcoming enough. I'm supposed to be welcoming the Kardashians. Maybe I should make them a hello, welcome to Punk 101 playlist.
Man, you bring up a strong point because, I see is pop punk thriving? And then I read some articles, I check out some bands, and I'm like, this sucks. I don't like this stuff, right? This isn't what I think pop punk is. This isn't as good as what I think pop punk should be. I don't like the production. I don't like all this. And I think it's fine to have my opinion, but should I be like that to, like, for instance, my cousin who might like some of these bands? Like, hey, all the bands that you like suck. Here are some good ones.
Okay, but there's a difference between I don't like these type of people than I don't like this music. That's a very different thing. And I can like people as individuals and not like their creative output. And there's people whose music I like or love, and they're probably assholes, and I probably wouldn't like them as individuals. So
true, but in the spirit of trying to live up to what we have been saying that punk rock is, and how it should be inclusive, I can still have that opinion, but can't I be encouraging about it to other people that are coming into the space?
Oh,
I think now that I think about it, I don't have to be such a dick about it and tell everyone that their taste sucks and you should be listening to this other band. I have to still think their band sucks that they like, but just be like more positive about, hey, that's cool that you like this. I'm willing to give that a try.
Yeah.
Check this band out too. They're really good also. And then maybe somewhere we'll find some common ground in the middle where we both like some of the same bands. And then we can go to some new shows with some bands that we might not have gone checked out before, along with some bands that we
also, I think that the other thing is, it's how you do it, right? You don't go, well, you're an idiot poser that shouldn't even have an opinion and your mother shouldn't have had you. Okay. Too far.
That is my go-to.
I know, too far. However, if you say, hey, if you like this, maybe you'll check this out. Check this other thing out. Also, here's the other thing. It's not like you and I are attacking small local bands that are getting their start and we're just like, how dare you listen to this ska band from California that has, 50 fans. No, the bands I don't like, Machine Gun Kelly. Okay, he's doing okay. He's doing so much better with his life than I am, that it is okay that I'm not supporting him. He doesn't care. He's a millionaire. He's doing just fine. I'm allowed to not like him. And I don't feel bad if I tell people, hate him. But I would never do that, like go around saying I don't like a local band or a smaller band or anything like that, because they already have enough hardships as it is. It's already hard to get your music out there and so on. But with the bigger bands, I don't see it as much of a problem personally.
Oh yeah, no doubt. It's and like what you're saying, you don't care because he's big, rich, and famous. The other thing is that is off-putting is that you just dip your toe into whatever you think punk is. You take out this one element and then you're a punk and you're all hardcore or whatever. And then everything else about your entire life has nothing to do with it. And that becomes a problem because you're just kind of stealing something that's cool and then saying it's yours. Like you own that.
It's kind of like cultural appropriation, but not to as an offensive degree, but like a subcultural appropriation, if you will.
Totally.
It's you're taking things from a subculture that you don't even understand.
Yeah. But that's
maybe
I just brought it up.
To be,
And okay, so in my spirit of being a nice person, it is good that pop punk is thriving in some shape or form. It is good that Machine Gun Kelly is thriving in some shape or form, for the simple fact that it elevates the underground to not anywhere near mainstream or whatever, but at least bands are starting. They're putting new stuff out. Even though a lot of it I'm not going to like, there's something's going to come from it where it's cool. Even if I don't like it, the style that it is, not every band is going to be that way. There's going to be like genuine art coming out of somewhere, something new to take a look at, and it'll even rise up like all the old bands that we like. It gains interest from a newer set of people coming in to find out that
and stuff. You're right. I mean, I don't like his music, but you're right, because of that. Other bands will get more exposure, and people. I guess I would rather people listen to punk rock that I think sucks rather than EDM.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
So okay, I will. Good for him.
Yeah, good for him.
Good for him. It's just weird when people are like, "Oh, these people are saving punk," and I'm like, "Oh, do I even want punk to be quote unquote saved?
Yeah,
are they leaders now?" Because there's always people that have been listening to punk since when it was popular and when it's not popular, and those are the people that stay. And then the other people, they come and go. And then, for example, punk and emo and not punk, like pop punk was really huge a couple years, like a decade ago.
Yeah.
So, but then most people I meet say I used to listen to it in high school, but I don't anymore. So are those the bands that are creating lifelong fans, or are they creating trends for trendy people who then just jump? I don't know, because literally everybody that I've met that doesn't listen to it anymore, but used to, they were listening to the big bands back then. They were the Fall Out Boy fans. They weren't the obscure underground band fans. You know, they were listening to the big bands, and now they're listening to the big bands of whatever is big now. I don't know what it is, but
you know, if you're 13 and you just hear Machine Gun Kelly playing with Travis Barker, and you hear this is what pop punk is, then you maybe a couple years down the road, you're like, well, that stuff's cool. I wonder where they got these ideas from.
Yeah.
And then you like see NoFX, and then you start wondering, well, where did NoFX get their ideas? And then you start going further and further down, and you Adolescents, and then Black Flag, and then Ramones, and you know, Stooges or whatever. It's like that. I guess that's how you do get a education when you weren't part of it in the first place. Just same as me. Like I started the show. Hey, I like Nirvana. And then, you know, you find out what did Nirvana like, and then you find all these other bands, and you're like, oh, wow, these are some crazy. Mudhoney is crazy. Like,
except I don't know if these new bands are doing a good job of promoting them.
No, they may not, but I mean, I have more faith in the youth than I do of the millionaires stealing their money. But you know, you do hope for something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was my rant on that.
Yeah. And then we have some new music.
Some new music. Okay. So in the spirit of finding something new, not almost punk. This band is Stand Atlantic. The song is Molotov. It's the total modern style of music that I don't usually like. It's very super slick, super produced, but whatever. Okay. I was on a mission, find a song that I like, that despite all the stuff about it, I don't like, but I'm like, I just like this song.
Good. Yeah.
I like the aggression.
Yeah.
The singer has perfect pitch, but it's still aggressive in this song. The band itself, they're not that aggressive every song, but this song, Stand Atlantic.
Yeah, I thought it was aggressive and catchy and like fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm down for Stand Atlantic. I'm not going to go see them on their own, but if there was some other band with them, I might find something new. And so it goes along. I'm opening my mind. Like, I'm just pulling the lid, just like, you know, I'm pulling the lid a little bit. I'm not going full bore.
Got it.
A little bit. So yeah.
Okay.
The song was good though. If I didn't preface it with 10 million negative things before I started talking about it, it might have been something that it sounded like an exciting thing to go check out.
It is. I liked it as well. And then the next song you have by Dig by Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes, songs Dig. Yes, that was in 2020. Snake Eyes had a song that made one of my top 55 songs or whatever it was. And I was just listening to the punk list that you'd sent me, and I wasn't even paying attention to what the band was or anything like that. And I was like, this song's cool. It's like indie rock meets punk with like a little power pop, and it's catchy, but it's still raw. And then I look at, okay, what's this band? Snake Eyes, boom, again. So I'm like, if you're a band and I'm just listening at random and I don't even know who you are, but I like your song twice, 2 different songs, you must be a good band, because that's 2 songs now. Snake Eyes, so good.
Yeah.
I like Snake Eyes.
And then you had one more. It is Surfboard with White Claw, Enema Bong Hit. What a title.
So this is what happened. After being like, I'm open-minded, I'm going to find something new. And I found it. I'm like, well, that's great. But is there anything that's newish that I would actually naturally be drawn to because I really just like it flat out? This is awesome. This is what punk rock means to me, or whatever. Are there any bands out there doing that? And then boom, what do I find? Surfboard, White Claw, Enema Bong Hit. Like, this is, when I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's punk rock, right? Boom, that's punk rock to me.
This is exactly the opposite of what Machine Gun Kelly is.
Yes, it was the opposite.
If you don't like Machine Gun Kelly, go listen to this song.
That's correct. If you're just like, these people aren't even talking about punk, blah, 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 and you're all mad about it,
boom,
then just skip to the end. Just click the link on freaking Surfboard, White Claw, and me Bong Hit, and you don't have to listen to anything else, because that's the punk thing to be taken from this episode.
I have breaking news.
Oh, break me.
So what I was just sent the War on Women responded to.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What happened?
Basically, it says Nancy Hornberg and Evan Tanner are former members of War on Women. They were both asked to leave the band over 5 years ago and have not been involved with the band since. Evan was asked to leave because we could no longer deal with his unreliable and manipulative behavior. The events that have recently been revealed about the level of his manipulative behavior, including criminal activity, were unknown to us until recently, and certainly not something we could ever knowingly endorse. Nancy Hornberg was asked to leave the band because there was repeated instances of lateness, inability to play, and overall inconsistent behavior. The core cause of this behavior was a serious personal matter, which we do not feel comfortable discussing or disclosing or detailing publicly. Our prior requests to discuss any issues with Nancy directly have been refused, and it's unfortunate that she's chosen to address this so publicly, making inaccurate claims and assumptions about the feelings and motivations of her past band members. It is also disappointing that no current member of War on Women has been asked to comment by any press outlet who chose to publicize Nancy's claims. None of us are perfect, and touring is hard, but Nancy's memory of these events is vastly different from what the three of us experienced. It's upsetting and unfortunate that this situation has led to uncertainty about the integrity of the band, especially when we have worked so hard to uphold it. But it is important to us that we are transparent with our friends and fans.
Wow. The plot thickens.
So the plot thickens. The band has posted a statement saying that they disagree with what Nancy, basically allegations that was kind of a very, I don't know, dramatic or inaccurate representation of what happened.
Interesting response.
Yeah. And then that's not what they, stand for as a band.
Yeah. It's tough just to do it in a press release, but in the article that Nancy wrote, there's tons of details. There's like detailed specific issues, and that response from War on Women right there doesn't really address specific things. It talks about the issues with Evan.
Yeah.
But when it came to the stuff with Nancy, they kind of didn't go into that.
Yeah.
They probably never will.
I guess if they're being accused of being bullies, it's also like they can't say too much negative things about her.
Yeah.
Without confirming that they are bullies. So there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof, well,
but interesting that the band has responded. So at least the plot thickens and we don't know what. Yeah.
I'm glad they responded.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that means yet.
We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
What are they going to do? And are they going to change their behavior? And is the past now?
And they also said that they didn't know about those criminal and those behaviors by their former bandmates. So
yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
do you have any?
Do I have any what?
Grudges? Do you have any grudges this week?
Oh, what was the grudge I was having? I think I was talking about it. Oh, we've talked about it already. It was how punk rock is friendly and nice to everybody, how we see it, but how it actually is quite the difference. And my solution was trying to be nice.
Oh, wow.
Which I can only do so much of, but hey.
Yeah.
We gave it a shot.
At least you're trying. My grudge this week is the imperial system. So like the pounds and the ounces, because it's a horrible system that's based on random number. There's a reason, but really it's not based on like tens or hundreds or whatever. And so it makes math more complicated.
Yeah.
And so I basically kind of almost injured myself because I did math wrong at the gym because the barbell is 45 pounds, but it's around 45 pounds, but it's 20 kilo. And that would have been easy math to do.
Okay.
But when you're doing 45, if you're like not in the thinking space, I don't know. Basically, I'm bad at math. Okay, I admit, but I wouldn't
you took calculus.
Yeah. Hard to be doing math when you're like physically exhausted. I did the math wrong and I blame the imperial system because it makes the math hard because you have to get equal weights on both sides, but then the bar is like an odd number.
Yeah.
So it's not as easy to subtract it from what you're trying to do and then divide by. It just makes it so many steps, whereas 20 would have been easy.
Well, that wraps it up for me. Anything else?
Yeah, we will be back.
Well, we'll see you next time.
Yes.
Over
Till
now.
then.